Times have certainly changed, but the attraction of cars from days gone by still remains. Recently, there was a press day, and the icing on the cake, a chance to try some of the cars on display here. The reporters had a field day.
I had to relearn in a matter of minutes how to double D clutch, something I really forgotten to do. And,
yeah.
I'm just beginning to get the...
I think modern cars make you lazy, don't they?
Well, yeah, the modern cars are so easy to drive, and
that's right.
This demands to be driven, doesn't it?
But we arranged our own preview, and here for the car enthusiast is a sample of those 300 cars you're likely to find on display at this museum near Gaydon. Officially known as the Heritage Motor Centre and run by the British Motor Industry Heritage Trust. Well, let's start with this one. Most extraordinary. I mean, it doesn't look anything like a Rover at all to me.
No, it's a very nice mid-engine sports car, built in the 1966-65. Beautiful little car.
A prototype.
A prototype.
Well, I tell you, the first thing I noticed about this was this extraordinary bubble at the back.
Yes, that was made to accommodate the two SU carburetors. In the early days, the Rover V8 engine had the large SU carburetors, so that was just to cover those up. Yeah.
Well, I'm not convinced that was a great success, really. Now, this is obviously very much a sort of sports car. The thing is, it didn't really quite make it, did it?
No, I'm afraid not. No.
Now, what about this one?
We've gone back in time to 1912 now, yes. This is a 12 horsepower Rover, Lord Delay. This was belonged to Lord Cato, who was the then Governor of the Bank of England. He then obviously sold it onwards to a Lord Rollo up in Scotland.
But he'd have driven to his place of work in London, would he?
That's right. These sort of cars were used as the town cars of the period. Then they had the large tourer to go to their country estates.
Fantastic condition still, isn't it?
Yes,
absolutely
it's beautiful.
superb, beautiful. Now, what about this magnificent beast, then?
It's going back to 1907 now. This is a 20 horsepower Rover. Not this car, but this model car won the Tourist Trophy race in 1907 at an average speed of 28 miles an hour.
Wowee!
Really going
I bet it was. I bet you felt like you were really shifting in that as well.
That was quite a feat.
Really superb. The sports car featured a few moments ago wasn't the only prototype that didn't go into production. There are various reasons, including production costs, competition from other manufacturers, and customer appeal. Here's an example. Tucked away on the top of this transporter, a Rover estate made in 1976. British Leyland's former boss, Michael Edwards, sometimes used it to commute round London. And what about this? A sports car based on the Mini, would you believe? Body by Pininfarina of Italy, engine from the Mini Cooper S, but it too never went into production. And how about this for a double bluff to protect trade secrets? It's described as a Triumph, looks remarkably like a variation on the old Morris Marina, but is in fact a prototype for a small Rover. It too never made it. And remember Sir Alec Izagonis, designer of the Mini? Well, this was his runabout at one time. No gears, just a simple lever for forward or reverse. It uses something called a fluid flywheel. That means it can go as fast backwards as it can forwards, in this case about 90 miles an hour. Then of course there's speed cars and rally cars through the years. Some cars were missing from that lineup. An MG from 1957 that could reach 250 miles an hour. Another from 1954, powered by a 1500cc engine. And of course the 1963 Rover B.R.M. gas turbine car, silent now and on exhibition only, but in its day...
In a field of now only 14, the Rover B.R.M. was leading the British contingent home in 10th place. June 20th, 1965. The end of a race 24 hours long. But for the gas turbine, the fulfillment of 20 years of dedicated development. Fuel consumption was not only half its 1963 figure, but now compared with that of ordinary cars in everyday use. A dream come true. A dream that spanned 20 years. This was indeed the end of the beginning.
And the value of this machine? Well, the museum's already turned down an offer of £2 million. It's just not for sale. This is the sort of place that brings out nostalgia. Today becomes not just yesterday, but yesteryear. For some, memories flood back. For others, it's a glimpse of an age they never knew. Let's dip again into the film archives and look at how the motor manufacturers tried to grab the public's attention.
We wanted to find out if the 100-pound car could do 100 miles per gallon and 100 miles per hour. The body, of course, was special, based on a carefully worked out streamlined design with a radiator outside the nose of the shell to decrease wind resistance.
A further vindication of Murray's engineering was the wonderful performance achieved by this 100-pound miner, which attained the marvelous figures of 100 miles an hour and 100 miles a gallon. This year also saw the creation of that fantasy, the invisible car.
The advantages of this wonderful discovery are unlimited. Let's see something like this in the ditch or behind a tree. We'll just show you what to do. As soon as you see one, put on your invisible switch, and his confederate will get the biggest shock of his life.
But were those years gone by the good old days or the bad? What about working conditions and employment levels? This is the Cowley Works in Oxfordshire, filmed a few months ago. And this is what it was like in the early 1900s. Similar comparisons can be made with Birmingham plants such as Longbridge. Again, the clock rolls back. So that's our all too brief look at a century and more of making cars. A lucky dip in and out of the archives of motoring in the Midlands. Love them or hate them, cars are here to stay. We may moan about the traffic jams and the new roads to cope with them which scythe through the countryside, but the long-standing love affair with the motor car shows no sign of waning.